On this episode of Be the Teacher, we will be talking about making a narrative film. We will discuss what a narrative film is, what you need to do to film a narrative film, and we will discuss the resources that are available through the Be the Teacher video series to help you with your project. That's right. We already have so many films in the Be the Teacher series that can help you with this topic. So we will point out which videos you should watch if you are stuck in the process or you are learning how to make a narrative for the first time. Please note, in the drop-down menu below this video, you can access a virtual table of contents. The topic makes this a longer video, so you can use it to jump around and explore the subjects you would like to explore. So let's get started. What is a narrative? A narrative film is a film with a story arc. Narrative filmmaking refers to the types of movies that tell a story. Though fictional filmmaking is another term for narrative cinema, the word fictional doesn't imply that such movies are purely based on fictitious events. Narrative films are composed by a string of events, and the structure is based on a cause and effect relationship. While the beginning of a movie and the introduction of certain characters are always arbitrary, the subsequent scenes, all the way to the denouement, must happen for a clear reason. An identifiable motivation that justifies character behavior, action, and goals. The occurrences in narrative cinema are never random. Rather, they are always organized based on a main line of action and connected through theme. In our Be the Teacher series, you might want to check in on the plot structure in Scenes and Scripts video. Here's just a clip of that video that explores the plot structure of a simple scene. So, how does this work for a scene? Well, let me draw a scene for you. Okay, there's the beginning, there's the middle, and there's the end. Do you recognize that structure? See, you're going to first create a number of scenes that will lead the protagonist from the first moment of your script to the last moment. And the truth is, every scene you create will also follow this structure. Yeah, the same structure we saw in The Wizard of Oz. First, a scene is usually driven by one character. The protagonist drives it, the antagonist drives it, or sometimes a supporting character drives that particular scene. The character who drives the action of the scene will enter the scene. And the character will experience a change at some point in the scene. He or she will be different at the end of the scene, and it's your job to determine what causes the change for that character in that scene. And the energy of the scene will increase between the moment when the character begins to change and the moment when the change is complete. Every scene is a mini script. How about that? See, every scene has the same plot structure, and they all come together to make this bigger plot structure. This video goes into other topics, such as the importance of a theme and the structure of a larger film script. The next thing you will want to do when you are working on a narrative film is to build a treatment. A treatment is a 15-sentence version of the entire movie. Usually the treatment is broken down into 3 parts, which some refer to as a 3-act structure. In our Be the Teacher series, you might want to check in on the treatments and loglines video. Here is just a clip of that video that explains the parts of a treatment. First, you should start with a sentence that shares the main character and the general setting. Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, there was a boy named Luke Skywalker. Usually, we also get a glimpse of the villain or the opposing force that it is against or getting in the way of the main character. In this case, if we're going to continue with Star Wars, you have the evil Empire and Darth Vader, and we'd put that into a sentence, and we'd say a little bit about how they're getting in Luke's way. Finally, you get to one of the most important parts of your entire treatment, the main problem of the story that the character must overcome. Usually, the main character has some sort of physical goal that he or she has in mind. For example, Luke Skywalker has to go off and defeat Darth Vader and rescue the princess. Many times, however, the character has a flaw that's driving that problem. In this case, it's Luke Skywalker's self-esteem. Luke Skywalker is in possession of something called the Force, and he doesn't know if he's strong enough to use it to beat Darth Vader and rescue the princess. It's always more interesting when the main character has some sort of concrete goal in mind, like saving the princess, but also some flaw within him or herself that he or she is trying to overcome, like learning how to use the Force and overcome his low self-esteem. So, the middle is the longest part of your treatment. Usually, when a character goes on an adventure to solve a problem, he or she doesn't get it right the first time, so the character does something and it falls apart. Next, the character reacts to the setback he or she has just experienced, and we see an adjustment. The character still has the goal in mind and is adjusting his or her plan to reach that goal. And, in good movie fashion, something else is going to go wrong. Once again, the character reacts to this new setback. How will he or she adjust? And what's going to go wrong again? If you really think about it, most movies are like this. They are a series of plans that usually go wrong until we get to the end. This is where the main character comes up with a plan to solve his or her problem. I hope by now you've realized that the middle of your treatment should be the longest part of your treatment. Although we're using the word sentence, sentence 4, 5, and 6 can each be a series of sentences. And remember, as your character comes up with plans, each plan should be different. So, in sentence 4, when the character takes the first action and has to adjust, make sure that what he or she does in sentence 5 is completely different. Otherwise, your movie will be boring and monotonous. Sentence 7 is all about the main character's expectation. In other words, how does the main character believe he or she is finally going to solve the problem? What's the plan in his or her head? Now, just remember, this plan always goes wrong, but they always come up with it. For example, when Luke Skywalker is flying his X-Wing into the Death Star, he probably doesn't imagine that he's going to be the only one left and that Darth Vader will be hot on his tail. He probably thinks he'll be supporting some other guy who will be taking that shot that blows up the Death Star. So, this is the sentence where we describe that plan. Then, in sentence 8, we explain how the plan is executed. Was it successful? Did the main character solve his problem or not, and how? This is where you described what actually happens and the outcome of the hero's journey. Did Luke Skywalker rescue the princess and blow up the Death Star and take down the evil empire? And what about Luke's self-esteem and his control of the Force? All of this would be shared at this particular part of your treatment. And finally, we see the resolution of the story. How does this look in the last few minutes? Does it come to a genuine conclusion, or do we set ourselves up for a sequel? Obviously, you now need to create a script. In the Be the Teacher series, you have the Writing a Script the Easy Way video. Although we are not going to play that video now, it is important to mention a free software that is available for you to write your script. It is called Celtx, and once you create an account, you will be able to format your script correctly. Celtx will do it for you. There are amazing video tutorials on the site and a suite of options you can add through the premium pay service. You will find that Celtx not only helps you to write a script, but to storyboard, cast, and coordinate your film. By now, you should have a treatment and script, so it is time to film. If you don't know, the Be the Teacher series has videos on such topics as how a camera works, costume, set, and sound. You might also want to watch the storyboards and scripts video. Still, the video you might check in on at this point in the process is the Getting Great Coverage video. Here is a clip of that video explaining two of our most important rules of filming, the rule of thirds and the 180-degree rule. So you're beginning to understand coverage, but like I said, there were two rules that can help you as you're trying to get coverage for your particular scene. This first one is, like I said, the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds states that an image is most pleasing when the subjects or regions are composed along imaginary lines which divide the image into thirds, both vertically and horizontally. And like we said, the Filmic Pro app allows you to turn on a grid that divides your screen into the rule of thirds. It's actually quite amazing that a rule so seemingly mathematical can be applied to something as varied and subjective as a photograph, but it works, and surprisingly well. Look at both of these pictures. The rule of thirds is all about creating the right aesthetic trade-offs. It often creates a sense of balance without making the image appear too static, and a sense of complexity without making the image look too busy. Another rule that you'll want to follow is the 180-degree rule. You'll hear people talk about the 180-degree rule and not crossing the line when filming coverage. That's right, not crossing the line. So what line are they referring to? If you can imagine an actor walking or running in a direction, then you can picture the path they are following as a line. If two actors are talking to each other, then draw a line to connect the two places where they are standing and extend the line in each direction along the edges of the set, like this image here. If there are many actors in a scene, you can still draw a line connecting the two opposing sides of the action. The camera must always stay on one side or the other of the red line. All coverage should generally be shot from one side or the other of this imaginary line. The audience subconsciously forms a mental map of where the actors are located in the scene, and from the first master shot, they will be thinking about that. Mary is on the left and John is on the right. Like here, you see Laura on the left and me on the right. If you go to a close-up of Mary filmed from the other side of the line, it will suddenly appear that Mary has jumped to the right side of the set. So it would look like this. See, this kind of change is very disconcerting to an audience, and at least momentarily it takes them out of the story as they attempt to reestablish their understanding of where everyone is located. So you want to avoid anything that takes your audience out of the emotion of the scene. In the simple case of one actor walking down the street, if the first setup shows them walking from right to left, then all the coverage should show them walking from right to left. If you jump to the other side of the line, you break the 180-degree rule, and it looks like the character has suddenly decided to return where they came from. You can do this, but you need to include a shot of the actor turning a corner for the scene to make sense. Get it? If you're going to show characters switching sides, you need to show the actors physically switching before you go to new close-ups. Let's continue for a moment exploring this idea of coverage. If you already watched the rest of the Getting Good Coverage video, when filming a simple scene, you know you need to film the scene from multiple angles. Let's review some of this information and add some topics that have not yet been explored. This process of getting multiple shots, as you know, is called coverage. The most important of your shots is the master shot. The master shot is a shot of your entire scene, from beginning to end, from a full or wide view. This is the most important shot of your entire process, because if everything else goes wrong, at least you have a master shot. If the worst thing that can happen does happen and all you have is the master, at least you have your scene from beginning to end. Next, you need to get your two pops or your over-the-shoulder shots. Using your rule of thirds and the 180-degree rule, you will film shots of the actors performing over the shoulder of the other actor. Remember, you will want the actor on the left in your master shot to once again be on your left, and the actor that is on your right to once again be on the right. You might also want to film close shots at this time, which is a closer shot where the actor delivers the line not over the shoulder of his or her co-star, but instead as the singular focus of the shot. Once again, we use the rule of thirds and the 180-degree rule to suggest that the actor is on the left or right, and we want to leave headroom and look room. Headroom is making sure that there is the appropriate space between the head of the actor and the frame of the shot. And look room is making sure that you as the director have left room in the shot to suggest that the eyes are looking at whatever is out of frame. You also want to film in a way that allows you to move the camera as little as possible. So if this is your setup, you might want to film the master, the over the shoulder of A, close shot of B, close shot of A, and over the shoulder of B. This will allow you fewer equipment setups, and you will be able to film in a logical order. And remember, for crowd scenes, you might want to shoot the crowd first. That way you can send the crowd home and just deal with your actors. That is what we did in the film Ivy. For example, in this scene, when you see Ivy alone in the frame, we shot those shots after the group shots, and we sent everyone except for our principal actors away. If you have my class, or if you are an instructor looking for an assignment, this is what I expect from you. You must build a 30 to 60 second film with a storyline. That is the assignment for one person. I do allow people to work together, but this will require an extra 30 seconds for each additional person. So 2 people equals 90 seconds. 3 people equals 2 minutes. 4 people equals, well, you get it. In addition to the length of a film, I grade students on 3 other areas: coverage, rules, and story. For coverage, students are graded on mastery of master shot, 2 pops, or over the shoulder, and reverse shot. Students must submit an example, either through a shot list, screen cap of their shots, or even raw footage to demonstrate that they logically filmed a scene. Filming appropriate coverage for a narrative is extremely important. Next, I grade on rules. For this, students must show a mastery of the rule of thirds and the 180-degree rule, but they must also demonstrate an understanding of look and headroom and lead room if the object is moving. Students are allowed to break the rules, but before they break the rules, they must show that they understand them. Finally, students must have an appropriate storyline with arc. This means that characters must be introduced at the beginning of the film, and the bulk of the movie must deal with a problem that the character is dealing with. And by the end, there is some sort of resolution, whether the character gets what he or she wants or does not. For my class, all students must submit a treatment, and they must provide at least one tactic in the middle to show the character getting closer to or farther away from his or her goal. So, that is it for this episode of Be the Teacher. We talked about what a narrative film is, reviewed many of the topics and resources that are available to you through the Be the Teacher series, such as story arc, treatments, scripts, and most importantly, coverage. And I gave you some insight into how I have my students work and what I have them create. I hope you are ready to go out and film your amazing project, and I can't wait to see and hear the story you tell. See you next time on Be the Teacher.